afternoon, everybody. It is a deep honor to be with you all. Hello, 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 beautiful beings. All right, what do we have here? Whoa, this is not what I want us to get to quite yet. Here we are. Okay. How is everybody doing? We just beautiful. Maybe I want to just invite us to feel ourselves enlivening by standing, if you're willing. Yeah, standing. This is a practice session, right? So this was an opportunity for us to take a few minutes to just feel our bodies. And really, I want this theme of remember. I'm going to actually, if you don't mind, take off a shoe or two. Because this is something that we almost never do in places like this, but just to encourage, remembering this whole body is here, and anything we might do to support ourselves and coming back in touch with the body is part of what I want to underscore here. Remember. We've heard so much in the way today that might be a little bit challenging. How many of y'all have heard some things that are a little bit challenging? Do we need to shake anything off? Have we heard a word somewhere that might... We've heard about fears. We've heard about anxieties. Well, I just want to invite us to reflect on ancient wisdom for navigating challenging times. We heard our dear Van this morning talk about many of our communities, actually all of us. I'm going to say this, we wouldn't be here if we hadn't been winners of the genetic lottery. We all are people who came from people who figured out how to survive. And yet some of us, as well as Van was saying, have had the extra class on how to deepen resources in times of challenge. So in other words, we haven't all been challenged in the same way, but we are here together. And so I brought this, I want to bring the spirit of play. I want to bring us into a moment of practice that is grounded in a moment of meditation. So pause for a second, take a breath, and allow yourself to come back into these bodies, this beautiful body that got you here. It may not be perfect. Everybody in this room is dealing with a different experience in the body right now, but just to allow yourself to feel coming home, feel the ground of support beneath you. As you breathe in and out, this ground that we all share every day that we live. When we feel alone, just remember, we are, in a certain sense, always already radically interconnected. And there's deep wisdom to support us. So I want you to pause and think about an ancestor or someone who comes to mind as a deep teacher, someone who you've encountered in your own family heritage, or maybe in the world heritage of teachers that we all lean on. In a certain sense, I believe we're all one family anyway. We often forget that. But the invitation is to reflect on a teacher that has been inspirational for you. And as you breathe in and out, allow your body to be infused with a sense of the way in which those teachings live in you to this day. And now maybe to think about, if you can, just imagine that teacher coming up through a community, a family, a mother, and then a mother before that, a community, a family, a mother before that. Imagine a thread that goes way back to ancient human connectedness, where our ancient ancestors knew something about how to come together in times of challenge. They often relied on practices of song, of music. The research is clear that human beings, our ancestors, were relying on circle and song tens and tens and tens of thousands of years ago. So I really want us to keep imagining that thread going all the way back, beyond name, beyond the heritage that we happen to know, which are almost by accident, I think, when you keep going back. Those particular lineages start to come together. And so if you are willing to practice a little bit of what apparently they did, the research shows 40,000 years ago at least in France, the cave paintings I'm sure you all are familiar with, evidence of bone flutes and other kinds of instruments that underscore the importance of coming together. Those cave drawings were in places that specifically and beautifully amplified sound, apparently. When you add that intentionality with the evidence of tools for sound, for music, We know that our ancestors wanted to create for us some awareness that music and sound and our ability to do that together was important. So can we, just as one example of how you can reach back into the ancient wisdom that we all carry on some level, how might we deepen our ability to reach into ancient wisdom as we consider how best to move through all of the difficulties we're facing? So what I'd like to do, if you all are willing, is can we play a little bit along with this? Can we sing a little bit together? I know people, we're not singers. I'm not a singer. I'm a law professor. This is the first time I've ever in my life got on stage with a drum. But this is, yeah, so we're playing. We're trying different things. This is a drum that's from West Africa. I grew up in North Carolina. We didn't have drums like this. I'm just learning the name of this one, djembe. It means to come together in peace. To come together in peace. And so what I'd like to invite us to do, just moving this, again, I'm going to be exploring, I'm calling this type of practice that I'm doing, something called soul-heartedness is a way of bringing mindfulness together with ancient traditions that I know from my own heritage as an African American that are about bringing music together with song and movement. Yes, it's founded in science. The beautiful team at the Center for Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin, my friend Richie Davidson, many of us know a lot of the science underlying what I'm describing here, but there's more than practices for awareness and connection and insight and meaning that we can think about cognitively. We need to feel ourselves doing some of this together. And so what I'd like to do is invite us to experiment with a little bit of creating a song. We're going to, first of all, invite... So I'm going to say some parts, and I want you to just start picking up on a part that you feel you can go with. Is that all right? Rather than saying, you have to do this and you have to do this, okay? All right. Da 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 da. Remember the trees, remember the sun, remember the families, remember we're one. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Remember the trees, remember the sun, remember the families, remember we are one. Breathe, 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 ha. Breathe, 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 ha. Breathe, 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 ha. Breathe, 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 ha. Remember, 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 remember the trees, remember the sun, remember the families, remember we are one. Breathe, 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 breathe. Come on, move a little bit. Ha, come on, breathe, breathe. You can clap, breathe. Aha, breathe, breathe, breathe. Ha, remember, 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 remember. Remember the trees, remember the sun, remember the families, remember we are one. Remember the trees, remember the sun, remember the families, remember we are one. Remember, come on, remember, 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 remember. Come on, you play. Remember, remember, remember. Yeah. breathe, breathe, breathe. Remember, breathe, breathe, breathe. Remember, breathe, breathe, breathe. Remember, breathe, breathe, breathe. Remember, breathe, breathe, breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Thank you all for playing with me. This an example of circle singing. By the way, this is what AI told me when I plugged in. How can circle singing help us cultivate a more ethical AI? So I'm just naming. We are playing with this new mystery and magic of a technological intervention in our lives. But there will be times when we will need to figure out how to connect, how to love each other better, how not to forget that we belong to each other. So if you remember nothing else, just remember that within these bodies, and if we pause and look around, look at the beautiful faces around us, remember we are not alone. Remember we struggle in similar ways. Remember everybody has some deep wisdom for how to move through this. Every human being carries deep wisdom. And remember that the time you spend cultivating not just the thought that we can work together, but practices that show us how we can do it, how we can pay attention to each other, play together a little bit. The time we spend doing that is time worthwhile. Maybe it's the only thing that will really deepen the ability that we have in our hearts to navigate these waters. So can we play together? Thank you all so much for playing with me today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.